All right. Good morning, Simone. Good morning and welcome. How are you today?
I'm fine, Kofi. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. I can see you've got that glow up from being somewhere warmer than I've been. That's for sure.
For a little while, yeah. Now it's nice, frosty British weather is upon
Yeah,
us.
indeed, indeed. So yeah, I appreciate you making time for this because I think when we were tried to connect a little while ago, busy lives, busy stuff going on, but you just got back from Dubai as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We just got back from Dubai and it's really exciting, all the things that we're doing there. So I can't wait to keep you updated and let you know
That's
more.
I can't wait to hear more about it. So I know that we've got a bit of a hard stop and there's so much to cover. So I wondered if it's all right with you, I'd love to do just a brief introduction just to give people context if they're not in the architectural or built environment space as to who you are. And then we'll get into the conversation, but no interrogation, just a chat between two old acquaintances, if that's all right.
Yes, that's fine.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, first of all, I'd love to say a big welcome to Coffee with Kofi, which is the podcast where we explore inspiring journeys of people who forged their own path, built meaningful lives around their passions, and challenged norms along the way. Today, I am truly and deeply honored to have with me Simone de Gale, the visionary architect behind Simone de Gale Architects, who is celebrated for melding mathematical rigor with striking design, creating unique spaces across London, but also internationally. Simone's story, and you can check me on this, begins with childhood memories of watching family build and create those early experiences um, of the built environment. And these really ignited a love for architecture that has grown into an award-winning career that you have so many awards, I can't even list them. From redesigning central London townhouses, super prime, to master planning large international projects globally, including a fantastic development in Georgia. So in this conversation, we'll delve into Simone's roots, what inspired her to stick with architecture in a space where, honestly, few people uh, who look like her exist. We'll hear about the challenges and the triumphs that she's encountered, and most importantly, what I'd love listeners to learn is about following the road less traveled through dedicating themselves to their passions and crafting a fulfilling career. So I've grabbed a coffee, I'm sitting back, and I'm ready to enjoy hearing the force of creativity, resilience, and purpose that is you, Simone. So welcome and thanks once again.
Well, thanks so much, Kofi, for inviting me to talk to you with coffee. It's really nice. And for your introduction as well, you've been keeping a close eye because it's all very accurate. And so, I grew up around construction. My father was in construction, my uncles, my grandfather was an architect in Jamaica and he
Mm,
was quite famous there. And
mm,
I remember when I was about 7 years old, we moved to our new home, like our father bought us a new home. And him and my uncles, they were doing all the decoration works, all the joinery, carpentry, and everything. And everything was handmade and everything was beautiful. Our wardrobes, the dining room, the living room, everything was just amazing. The
mm,
wallpaper, the silk, it was just gorgeous. And so the fireplace, I just used to sit there for hours, just like indulging in all the beautiful surroundings, what my family had made, what my
mm,
I watched them, create the house, and I bought them their lunches, and we had fun and things like that. So it's I just fell in love with architecture, and then when I learned that I was good at art and then I was good at maths, those are just the two combinations that you need to be a good architect. So I
mm,
just decided when I was very young, and I never changed my mind since. I followed the route. I took the correct GCSEs, A levels, and then went to university. But all along that journey, I was growing up around entrepreneurs in my family. They all had their own businesses. And so when I was a teenager, I started to become like a business lady,
Mm.
learning how to negotiate, learning how to get a network, learning how to, try and close a deal. And it was all very exciting. And then when I
Mm.
started university, I just really went for it, with my network. And so I was there meeting with, building control inspectors. I got a little job in our local council
Yes.
in the building control team, and I was like their admin staff. But all along I was learning about the process of
Mm.
architecture and like the governmental processes, what it means to get a project up and running. And so it
Mm.
was great. And when I finished university, my second degree, in 2009, I just started my company straight away. So I started my company because we was in the midst of the recession. And although I wasn't fully qualified, I could provide architectural services.
Mhm.
And it was just the right time. I had all these people coming and helping me set up the business and get it incorporated and learn all the things that you need to do to run a business. They were just all around me. So I just done it then. And what I did is that for 2 years, I built a portfolio of all the projects that I had run,
Mhm.
in around our local town. By that time, I had a whole string of clients, people that I'd met at the university, and their projects, and then local neighbors and family friends, and then it just spiraled from there.
Oh,
So
that's phenomenal. That is
it
really
is.
phenomenal. I mean, for me, it's just such a beautiful tapestry of nature coming into contact with nurture, because I often don't see the arts and the sciences blended together. And I would say with art that you've got the artistic side, and then with sciences with the mathematical side. I don't often see that combination. But what I love about this is, who says it's not possible? Because I guess you're proving that it absolutely can work. And I'm just trying to cast my mind back, because it's been so long, although I've been observing and cheering from the background. It's been so long since I saw you. I was trying to calculate it this morning. Do you remember like how many years we're gonna date ourselves? It probably won't
Maybe
look
like
like.
teenage years or something,
Yeah,
maybe something like that, because we were all in school together and, you
yeah,
know, running around our little shenanigans. So,
yeah. Yeah.
but we've
Who
always
would have.
kept in touch.
Yeah, that's it. And it's hilarious for me because, back then, maybe you knew, but I definitely didn't know that one day we'd be sat here having this conversation, me doing what I'm doing in my lane and you doing what you're doing. And it's just one of these, really, for me, I love doing this, but it's really heartwarming when you see someone from the same background, from your same local area, who's gone on to put themselves on a global stage as you've done. So congratulations and thank you, because that context you've given, I think, sets a springboard for us to go forward. So my next question for you is really, as a black woman entering an industry where you might not see many people who look like you, how did you feel sort of moving through that space from the beginning to, I guess, now, really?
Well, I just thank my father because he was an amazing person. He's passed now, unfortunately, several years ago. But he always, from the get-go, sent me and my siblings to the best schools.
Hmm.
And we were always around like diverse people. So around Indian, English, few black, and then Chinese and all different races. And so, like, from the start, I've always been brought up in a diverse culture.
Mm.
And there's interracial marriages in my family as well. Um, and because I went to the top schools, I never felt out of place. I never ever had
Mm.
any doubt in my mind
Hmm.
about why I'm here, or I never ever felt stagnated in my talents, all the teachers just encouraged me. Like, when they spotted one talent, in D&T, design and technology, the teacher would then just encourage me. When another teacher discovered a skill in art, they would encourage me. So I always felt surrounded by people who wanted my best interest and were just looking out for me and loved me.
Mm,
And I've always kept that throughout my whole journey. Um,
mm,
and I feel like I never ever felt out of place because, as well, in my family, my dad taught us to be very confident in ourselves. My
mm,
aunties, I've got a big family. And so I was always taught to be just to be myself and to be confident in that, to be kind, to be gracious, and all the good things that you're meant to be. So I
mm,
never ever felt out of place. And because I decided when I was very young and it was my family, they was always doing one house or another, there was always something going on. It was just part of me. It was just part of me, and I
mm,
just followed the journey. So I think throughout that journey, the early journey, it was very quite easy for me. I think also through the secondary school and college years, that was also very easy for me. I think when I started university, I started juggling quite a lot of things, and I think there I started to have a little bit of a difficulty, but I did for some purposes think that it was down to me being a woman and being of a black heritage,
mm,
and but I was quite like forthright. I was always quite bold in what I stood for, and I think at that level, I started to not really have that much respect for the teaching, because I could see where the teachers' backgrounds, they weren't formally, um, you know, they didn't formally go through the route to become a teacher. So teaching was
yeah,
like something that they kind of put on as like just a different facade.
yeah.
And I don't, to be honest with you, I don't think I'd ever go into teaching myself,
Okay, okay.
um, for that purpose, because I like the real world, I like the real world. And so I think when I went to university, I think I had in the first few years, I had a few challenges with some of the tutors in particular, and I did feel a little bit isolated. But I was juggling quite a few things in my life at that time anyway, so I
Mm,
wasn't too concerned about it, and I put some of that um, scenario down to my own actions. So I think when I left university, that's really where I just flourished, because there. Like I took on so between my degree and my diploma, I did 2 years studying, I'm sorry, 2 years working, one on Westfield London Shopping Centre in White
mhm,
City, and then with a company and a great architectural practice called RMJM, and they
mhm,
were doing like Gazprom headquarters in St. Petersburg. And so those were two great projects. I worked on each one for about a year, and then that's when I went back to university. And as soon as I started working in the real world, like, they just loved the things that I was coming with, the ideas. They gave me space. I got
mm,
paid well, handsomely. And they just gave me so much responsibility, and trusted the things that I did. So I just always felt very, very drawn to the real world, because there's like the university world, the academic world, which is very, very, gives you a very solid foundation and a good way of learning how to think. But when you're thrown into the real world, that's when the thinking becomes critical.
yeah,
The decisions you're making, the actions you're taking, the speed at which you're moving, how you're dealing with people generally, how you're dealing
mm,
with people and how you're dealing with the situation that's in front of you. So I always took that with a little bit of a pinch of salt, the university area, because besides that, I've never really had any kind of problem. I
yeah,
do think that generally in the industries, in the professional service industries, you do find a lot less people, like black people, in the top positions and, you know, having power and authority. And I think that it's something that, you know, as we are as a nation in the UK, you know, and generally, I think globally, to be honest with you, from my experiences, you know, we're pushing towards having more diverse boards, more diversity within seniority, you know, understanding other people's cultures better, taking time to
Mm,
appreciate where someone else is coming from, and you know what their roots are, their background, their family, their day-to-day life, you know, as opposed to someone who's just coming into work and, you know,
mm,
has a black face kind of thing. So I
yeah.
think that, you know, we are generally taking steps and we need to continue to do that. But me personally, you know, I've always been on this architecture journey. It means so much to me. It's like a heritage thing as well, you know.
Mm,
When we were young, me and my cousins and things, because there's quite a lot of us, you know, we're
yeah.
all like, who's going to become the architect? Who's going to, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful story, Simone.
And it ended up being me.
There's so much in that. Oh, can you see me still?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, there's so much in that rich story that you shared that resonates with me. I mean, I guess growing up similarly to you, going to an independent school initially, for the primary school period, like you, like Japanese friends, Danish friends, Persian friends, I had them all. And then growing up as we did, you know, in and around Croydon, it is super multicultural. So I do think there's an element that the world meets you where you believe or value yourself. And so coming from that, and then for me going to grammar school, I know for you, you continued that independent journey, but I really didn't have a strong sense of interference in my potential. Like there was that belief, just like you know, around people that are doing it. And yes, representation does matter. And I think why I'm so keen to talk to you today is because for those that aren't blessed with that wonderful, dynamic, inspirational family that you had, someone that they don't know, like Simone, you, would be that beacon of light to say, actually, that's possible. Whereas I think you came with that. You almost launched into this world where it was happening, it was done, and therefore there was nothing to stop you, is my take, from believing that
Yes.
absolutely you could do it. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. And on the founding of your business, I hadn't realized it goes as far back as literally post university, essentially, if I've got that right. But when you founded the firm, what were some of the biggest challenges that you sort of faced in the initial period? And I suppose, how did you manage to stay focused on your vision despite any challenges that may or may not have been there, you know?
I think you know, I had really prepared to set up my business. So as I said, like when I started university, I was like starting to network. So I'd be and like build connections, build rapport. So I'd been networking for like nearly 10 years
Mm,
and building that whole, you know, system around my business, that when I started it, it was very easy for me to get projects. You know, it was pretty much I'm here, I'm available, and the projects just flowed. You know, in the first year, one of my clients, which I had met during university, one of our projects, he was based in East London, part of the Bengali sort of community. And, you know, as soon as I started my we did one project together during university. And then as soon as I started the company, he came to me and he had like a cultural center. He had a mosque he wanted me to design, a change of use. And, you know, then he recommended me to his colleagues and his families, his brothers who had properties and they wanted projects done. And then the biggest one came from him. He had a project in Bangladesh, in Sylhet. He had a huge plot of land there and he wanted to build like a community center, education, and a town hall kind of thing. And he asked me to be the architect for it. And then, that was that was like towards the end of the first year in business. And that was just like the one, the biggest project, because it was an international project. I went out there with the client. We done all the site investigations and everything, and he was quite famous in that area in Select. So there was lots of TV and news
Mm,
about it and everything, and all the people would come in, and they were so kind, and generous to me. So it was pretty much like that. And then so I went and I had one client, and then I would just take their portfolio, the whole of their portfolio, and then they would recommend us to their friends and their colleagues and neighbors and things. There was one street in Croydon, I think it's Sydenham Road. I think we done about 10 properties on that
oh my
road.
goodness.
Yeah, because we had one client who led to the next door neighbor client, and the next door neighbor client, he had about 5 properties on that street, and then there's another client. So it all kind of spread out. Like we done a little map once,
Yeah.
just to show all the projects we had on that street, and it was just incredible. And then I moved to central London, to West London, and I moved the company to Belgravia at the same time in like 2012, early 2012. um and I was really nervous then, because I didn't really know anyone in the area, who lived there, um and worked there, and I had a couple of friends who had moved at the same time.
Yeah.
um but you don't see your friends like every single day. So I didn't really know anyone, but I just got into the networking vibe, and I joined like a local architects group, like the West
Mm,
London Architects. And we used to meet like once a month, just in a local hotel or pub or something,
yeah.
and just talk about architecture. Like we had a little agenda and everything, and we had events and things, and that really helped me start to get to know people in the area. And
Mm,
then I just haven't looked back since, because I just always use the same formula. It's networking, and then once you get one client, do a good job, and then they give you a whole
no,
portfolio. Yeah.
amazing, amazing. And honestly, I won't replay everything we talk about because I think it speaks for itself, honestly. But what I really, really love about that is how your preparation met the opportunities that then came up. But I think what underpins all of that is your focus, not on I'm going to sell, I'm going to sell, I'm going to sell, but that human connection and building relationships. So you talked about, you from university that led you to move to Bangladesh to do some massive bits there. That is my vibe. That is my language. Like when we connect, and energy doesn't lie. People say all sorts of things, but energy doesn't lie. When we
Yes.
connect, it lays the foundations for meaningful relationships and supporting one another as you've demonstrated. So that is
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much. And when I have read about, observed your architectural style, it appears to draw heavily on mathematical principles, which you talked about from your study, like rhythm, pattern, and repetition. Um, kind of what draws you to that approach in the way that you so uniquely apply it and are sought out for? And how does that reflect, your values or identity as a sort of designer of spaces?
Well, I think with all of the projects that I do, and generally with the ethos, I'm really thinking about a space, an environment that will just let you be at peace. When you walk in that space, you just feel comfortable, you're at peace, and you've got a free flow in the mind. And that always drives me, because I think the most important lesson I ever learned in architecture is your environment creates you. Your environment
Mm,
creates you, and it shapes you. And always make sure that my loved ones, my colleagues, that we're always in good environments, environments that nurture you. And with our principles, like the geometric pattern, the origins of geometry and the ribbon pattern and repetition, etc. These all come down to principles in nature. So
Mm.
you'll see in anything in nature, there is a pattern to it. And, us as humans, we've taken that same thinking, which is naturally on this earth, and we put that into everything that we do, everything that we manufacture. There's a certain geometry to it, there's sensibility to it. And I love the fact of, drawing the human being closer to themselves, to their center and being at one. And so that's really where the principles have come from, because anyone that experiences the environments that we design, I want them to feel like they belong there, like it's part of them. And I want it to nurture them and to give them inspiration. So that's really where I'm coming from. And it's just a wonderful way that we work as well, because as well as having the sort of principles and the methodological way of thinking about it, there's also a sensibility in terms of construction technique. So
Mm.
if you're building like a square like for a house or any kind of space, you can really maximize every single corner of that space without losing any of the square meterage. And also, if you do things at a dimension,
Mhm.
regular dimension in architecture, then you're also able to do things like modular construction,
Mhm.
so offsite building in manufacturing factories. And really it's a way to condense the construction time on site,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
also a way to mass produce and reduce overall costs for construction for materials. You can also be more accurate as well. And so I've always found spaces like that, they really nurture me, any that I've experienced. And the ones that we create is, learning from that experience. And it is a really like a beautiful journey, because, yeah, every year we get bigger projects, we get more high profile clients, bigger budgets, and it's just becoming a really, really exciting journey where I can see the development of the design, from of the principles from where it started, because these are principles that I started with, to where we are now. And
Mhm.
so yeah, it's really, really good.
That's amazing. And that speaks to me of something else that occurs in nature, which is evolution, in that
Yes.
you had a vision and a way of wanting to work, which is it's so amazing when you say what you say, because I think there are some things that are like universal to us, whether that be thoughts or what have you. And when you were speaking, it made me remember like books that I've read at one point, but they didn't really relate to me at the time. But then I picked them up later on, and it's like, oh my God, this book was almost written for me. And I think when you talk about bringing people to peace and back to themselves and how the environment creates them, I think we can all relate to that, which is super powerful in the way that through your work, you translate universal principles to built environments where people can really not only live but flourish as well. So
Yes.
it's magical. It is magical. And a question I did have for you, and this is probably one for me personally, because when you speak and you bring your uniqueness to the world, there is a question of value and the appraising of that value, shall we say. So when it came to and comes to, how you value and therefore price the work that you will do, how are you able to do that? Because what you're doing is, yes, it's you're an architect and you can get an up, but the way you do it is not the same as the way that anyone else would do it because of the way you're
Mm.
focused. So how do you go about that balance between, I know I'm good, I know I'm great, and I know I will bring you that peace, and this is what you need to invest, because I find that challenging, to be really honest with you, in my work, in terms of where do I position myself. So maybe for others, it might be really useful to hear your thought process around how you appraise opportunities and the investment required.
Yeah, thanks, Kofi. I think with that particular question, I've always been very focused on who our clientele is going to be, who we're going to work with, who's going to appreciate our style of design and what we do. And so I've always made sure that we're working with clients who do value, what we bring to the project and how we work with them, because every client is about how you work with them.
Yes.
This is not a project. These are not projects where you pick up the phone one day and the project is completed the next. These can go on for months, sometimes years, sometimes decades. But so you're gonna be with this person for some time. And whether that's the president of the company, or whether that's a project manager within that organization, you need to be working with the people in the right way. And so I'm just very focused on who we work with. Generally in London, in the UK, most of our projects, if not all, are in Kensington and Chelsea, Westminster, or the City of London Corporation. I work specifically in those boroughs because there we can get like super prime residential and hotel work. We can get office commercial work, and we can get retail projects as well. And we can also get housing projects. There's a few big developments taking place in Westminster at the moment, specifically for that. And Kensington and Chelsea. So there's ample opportunity for us to work with people who respect architecture, because it is quite surprising how many people actually know what an architect does from how many people don't. I think when I was growing up, people would ask me sometimes what an architect does. And even now, even we've started to introduce more programs through the REBA, the Royal Institute of British Architects, to educate, to go into schools, primary schools, and give workshops and lessons about what an architect is and what what a career as an architect could possibly be. And so I think that it's really encouraging to see that more and more people become aware of what architecture is, what your environment is, how much your environment means to you, or what it does to you. It's really important, because the more educated that the nation becomes, the more better environments we can create for each other. And so I think that's always been my drive, who we're working with, who values architecture, who knows that an architect brings an asset to the team, which is, very, very valuable in terms of a property, and what that, or piece of land, and what that building can do, the impact it can have for the people that live there and the people that are around that building. So just working with good people, and then things like fees are never a problem.
No, I think when the value is understood and appreciated, then you're absolutely right. And I think something else that you said earlier ties in with this, where we talked about Sydenham Road, and you had 10 properties on that road that you did. I think even if people are not naturally or instantly aware of it, seeing can often be believing. So once someone walks into a place and sees the work of your hands and your team's hands, they can't help but be converted, because they will feel something, and in that feeling then maybe they can seek you out to say, hey, you know that thing that you did for that person over there or that company over there, could you do that but in my style for me? And so I guess it almost creates a dynamo effect, you know, sort of catalytic effect where you do great work and then that gets seen and then that gets promoted and then that leads to sort of new people who understand and value what you bring to the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say, most of our clients are commercial clients, so they will always have a property portfolio, or they're managing teams, and so generally it's always been, once we get one project from the client, we always end up working on several projects with them.
Yeah.
They until they're not doing any more architecture work or something like that. But it's really about the relationships that you have, the relationships that you build, and then just surrounding yourself with more of that, more and more.
That's brilliant. Gosh, so many gems. Like I said to you, we're gonna sort of flow and go to places. So let me gather my thoughts and think about the next thing to discuss with you. Ah, that was it. So I think for many listeners, balancing passion with practical reality can sometimes feel like a tightrope. You know, I guess when you've got budgets involved, etc., etc. How do you navigate the tension between, I guess, ambition, financial viability, but then also staying true to the creative vision that you have?
Yeah. Um, I think that you like when I started my architecture practice, I also started another business, which was an invention business, because I made this invention.
Okay.
And it works like with the with the Ministry of Defence. It's like a blast-proof protection thing. And I started that company with several other directors, who were like all much older than me. And it was really interesting. Excuse me. Um, but I would want to say that when I started that company with them, there was like seven of us. They very quickly taught me, when you should spend money and when you shouldn't, you
Mhm.
know, how much time you should spend on one thing and how much time you should spend on another. So although I'd already had a little bit of business acumen, building up through my teenage years and things, they
Yeah.
really taught me, when you're launching a business, when you're starting a business, how to be careful and how to spend your money wisely. And
Mm.
I've always taken that lesson all the way. We invest in the business, but we invest in the correct things to invest in, investing in the staff, investing in the office, investing in the networks and the select networks that we're associated with, and memberships that we have. And we spend there because these are like necessities for the brand, for the environment, for the business. But then we choose where to spend, other things like marketing and even business development, because we've got a strong foundation. A lot of the business comes to us,
Mm.
and so we're able to even reduce the amount that we spend on business
Mm.
development because the projects are just flowing in. But I think this is the most important lesson to have, if you're going to be running a business, and to be practical about it. Like, what is the vision that you have, and how you going to obtain that vision without with the least amount of risk. It's all about being risk adverse, especially in architecture, because I want to do some amazing designs, and these amazing designs, they have big budgets which are attached to it. So the more that I can show the client, that they are making a risk adverse investment, the risk is minimized, the more comfortable that they are to work with you, and the more that we work together as a team. And so I would just be, mindful of when an opportunity is presented to you, because my goodness, we get opportunities every single day, you know.
Mhm.
There's something else that, you know, people want us to invest in, you know. Just really really assess that opportunity,
Mhm.
and what it is going to do for you, and what it's not going to do for you, and how big the risk is.
Oh, that's amazing. Can you see me okay? Because I've just come to realize that the sun has decided to obliterate me. Can you see me still, or am I?
Yeah, it's got all different. You've got a different light now.
So bear with me. This is not what I prepared for. I'm going to fix this because that is
Okay,
disrespectful to the call. But I'll be just 1 second.
that's fine.
We've got some blind action there. So yeah, as ever, nature will do its thing. How's that? Is that a bit better
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
I'm back. I'm brightening up. It's looking like a
I
shadow
just
in the.
saw the sun rays coming through. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that was an appreciation for the things that you were sharing about sort of being risk averse and
Yes.
ensuring sustainability through what you were doing. So, no, really, really impactful stuff. And we're galloping through at a pace. As it stands at the moment, how many people are within your firm? Like, how many other architects you have?
There's 12 of us all together,
Mm.
and that's a mix of architects, and then I've got someone doing marketing, business development, and administration.
Mm. And that's something I really wanted to explore with you actually, because the leadership journey is not one that is ever static. So I sort of imagine that you start as you and you can execute a certain amount of work depending on your desire to do so. But then at some point, as you say, you've got more work coming in every day. You have to, or you can choose to stay or expand and evolve. And in that evolution, where you've added people to the team, I suppose what have been some of your learnings about building a team that works well together, maintaining its individuality, but with the same principles? Because effectively, people are coming to SGA for what you bring, but everyone's different in how they might bring it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like generally everyone who works for us is um like they've got the same kind of vibe, the same kind of design style as I do, you know, so the same kind of energy, you know, same kind of network. And so it means that we just get on like well, you know. In the early years, I remember um employing a couple of designers, and you know their design style was very, very different, and their
Mm,
thinking's just very, very different, and it just didn't work. And it just means that you spend time debating an issue rather than progressing.
yeah.
And so I find it really, really helpful, because now most of my time is not really spent doing design work. I'm just like running the company, and but the designs that my designers make are pretty much a reflection of our ethos.
Mm,
So you know they'll we always start with our principal books. You know, we've got a management system, you know, in terms of the way that we design. And, you know, I then just oversee the projects. And it means that my time is freed up, and I can spend that time meeting a client, or doing checks on drawings or checks on site or something. And it's a way that you want to work with people who um like what you do, like the company, like the way that we design and want to be part of that, who want to be part of that
Yes. Yeah.
journey. And that's really what shines out in any type of process that we go through.
Yeah. No, amazing. And thank you for being, real about the fact that it isn't like you started and everything went exceptionally smoothly, because I think there is learning to be had all the time, but particularly when it comes to going from a solopreneur to having a team and the dynamics of that and maintaining the purity of the ethos that you've got. So that's super helpful. And I would
I
love
think I just wanted to add that I think
please.
like when I started hiring people, that's when I really realized that having a team brings so much more to your scenario, because when you're looking at a scenario yourself, you've just got your perspective, and you've also got your worries and your concerns and things. But then when someone else steps in and then they give their version of the scenario, like they can like take those worries away from you, and they bring solutions to the
Yeah,
issue. So that it's the greatest thing to have a team and to feel safe to delegate. It's a
yeah.
really, really good thing.
Oh no, that's amazing. I think that flowers to you for creating and leading that culture where people can come and share their ideas and support, really support, because I think there's this myth that sometimes as a leader you have to know, or you have to do, or you have to bring all the solutions. But in hearing what you say with such honesty, it's not always the case, and having a good group around you allows you to see different perspectives, but also come back to that piece that you spoke about, where you can flow and actually create and be in your truest element. So I'm going to take that on board as I expand and grow. Um, I really wanted to just explore a bit around sort of daily habits or mindset shifts or disciplines that have helped you maintain what I would say, and many would say, all your awards would say, are excellent. Particularly in the high pressure, high stakes world that you operate in, where people are investing on huge scales to bring your visions or their visions to life through your work. Are there any sort of hints, tips, or tricks that you might be able to share that have helped you on your way to maintain what you've been doing?
I think it's always good to have balance, and it's always good to have a routine. And in the first few years, like I was working like 6 a.m. till midnight every single day, Monday to Sunday. And
Okay.
so it took me like a few years to get my weekends back. And then a few years after that, I was able to get my evenings back. So, I just always have a routine, whether it's going to the gym, going cycling, meeting friends, family. Um, you know, anything like that, which is like a weekly routine. I do like to have like a routine in my life, and the things that I do on a weekly basis or monthly, or even daily, they help me have balance.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
No, no problem.
Yeah, they help me have balance. So it's really nice to um have that balance, because otherwise you can get really wrapped up in just the work, and then it's work, work, work. But as well, with like the networking events and things that I go to, a lot of that is quite a bit social as well,
Mhm.
because especially at this level, all of our clients and colleagues are in Belgravia and Knightsbridge and things. So it's quite enjoyable as well to go to those events sometimes in the evening, which is like it's a bit like a work event, but more of a social
Yeah,
work
yeah.
event. So it's because you're just connecting with people
Mm.
more and more, with your network, with your colleagues and friends, and you make friends as well. So I think having like really trying to set your life so that if you want to run a business, you can have balance. You can have work, and play and life as well.
Yeah.
And I think those things are very, very important. And yeah, it is really nice that I do have some amazing experiences in my life, through work, through the business, what we're doing, and like through design and everything.
Yeah.
But, to be able to be humble and to have balance and then just have peace is very important.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I think it speaks to me because in my approach to sort of coaching leaders, established and aspiring, I always look at it from a holistic perspective, bringing in the ways of well-being. Because if you have stress or strain in one area of your life, my view is it will impact other areas of your life. So take
Mm.
finances, take relationships, be they personal, professional, take your health, for example. If that any one of those and more are impacted, then it does affect you. So that idea of balance, and finding that over iterative um, iterations, if that's a thing, is really central to how I like to work too. So thank you. Now, Simone, I'm mindful we've got T minus 4 minutes and we've galloped through, and you've been absolutely amazing. I think maybe a couple more things that I want to ask you, and then I'll let you go.
Sure.
One thing is, I was at an event yesterday and I bumped into one person at the very beginning. I was just sat there having my bubbles, and he came up to me and said hello, and we got to speaking, and somehow you came up. So he's someone that's with the Constructors Guild, and he's called Tom McCullough, and he's a chartered building surveyor. And when I spoke to him a bit about what he did, I said, "Oh, I'm speaking to Simone de Gale tomorrow." He's like, "Oh my God, you won't believe it, but she once referred work to me, and I can't thank her enough because she was just so helpful." And I was like, "Really?" And he was like, "No, yeah, yeah, he did." And I'm not going to put you on the spot and say, "Do you remember Tom?" But I really just wanted to share that as an aside as to what I've known of you, and what I got to witness just yesterday, that you do try to support others and give back where you can as well. So just want to thank you on behalf of Tom, because he did say, if I did speak to you, to say thank you.
That's Thank you. That's fine. It's
Yeah.
very nice to hear that things have gone well.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I think just for my last question, I was going to really ask you about, for anyone that's aspiring to break into fields that maybe there are a few people that look like them in it or what have you, what practical advice could you give around, finding their confidence or building their skills and creating supportive networks? Because I think you came with the confidence and you didn't find it, but you've done all the other things so excellently. But for someone who, is there anything that they might apply to their unique scenario, whether it's architecture, creativity, anything really?
I would, I'd first say that they should speak to their family, some family members, maybe their parents, maybe some siblings, or some extended family. I think family is always a good place to start,
Mhm.
because family will tell you anything. And they might tell you about hurdles or challenges. They might support you, but I think that's just a good place to start, because I know that my family's always been here for my journey. I mean, it's not easy. There's ups and downs and all things, but
Sure.
to know that people are there to support you and they care, and
Mhm.
they always got your best interest at heart. That is, then you can work through any situation. So I would really say that that is the first place I would start, and if you don't have any family, some extended friends, you know, just people that you trust and you care, just talk
Mhm.
to them about what you want to do. And they might know something, they might know nothing, but at least you've got started, I think.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Simone. And as we wrap, I couldn't let you go without asking about next year and what you're excited about, because we're almost December. I can't believe we're here. But is there anything that's coming out for you that you're super excited about that we can look out for?
Um, we're going to have some amazing projects going on next year, and internationally. I think with the pandemic, that closed a lot of projects at the time. And
Mm,
as I said, we've always done international work. So it's really nice that the last couple of years things are starting to open up again, because,
mm,
this is where we have so much opportunity, especially as a young architect. The clients give us free play
mm.
in the projects that they run. And so I'm really excited for that portfolio next year.
Brilliant. Well, I can't wait to be following you with interest and hopefully get to see you, because I think 3 decades or so have gone by since the last time I physically actually saw you, COVID to one side. But
Yes.
thank you so much for your generosity of time and also understanding the assignment, because when I started it, I said that we would delve into your roots, what inspired you to stick with and getting into architecture, and the challenges and triumphs. You've shared so much passion and just accessible wisdom that I'll be watching this a few times, I'm sure, as will others. So thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you again sooner than later, really.
Thank you, Kofi. Yeah, it's been great to see you. And yeah, let's have that next coffee in person.
Yes, you're on. You're on. All right, brilliant. Thanks so much, Simone. Have a lovely rest of the day. All right.
Have a great day.
Well, take care. Bye bye now.
Bye.